Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our tactical breakdown series, usually where we look at the players that Arsenal are linked with, and we pray and hope and we keep our fingers crossed that they will be signing. Now, I wanted to do something slightly different. Last couple of days, news has exploded in terms of where we're at with our transfers and the way that Arsenal are doing their dealings. Obviously, yesterday's show, which you can go check out on the channel, looked at what Josh Kroenke said and what that linked into some of the players that we were being linked to in the transfer market. The day before that, we looked at a specific player that we're going to reference in this video today, and we broke them down in the normal tactical breakdown way. The difference with today's video is I wanted to take a look because it's been about nearly exactly to the day a month since I did my last what I thought our lineup was going to be next season. Obviously, a month has gone by. 4 weeks is a very long time in football, and we've seen a lot of things change, and so we're going to clearly see some changes in how I think Arsenal will line up next season, both with players that are still at the club, players that we could be signing. So let's get straight into the video and talk about that. But before I do, of course, I want to do a big thank you to all the people that have subscribed over the last couple of weeks or so, or in fact the last couple of months, because we hit 12,000 after yesterday's video, which was obviously very popular, talking about Stan and Josh Kroenke's comments, as well as transfers as per. So if you're enjoying the series, please give them a like, please subscribe with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show, and keep those comments in the comment section because they're really, really important. I love seeing the comments every day. They're so positive. I really appreciate them. So please keep putting those comments in the comment section, and you can get them featured like you can see on the screen now. But yeah, let's talk about what we're here to talk about, which is Arsenal's lineup for next season, an area of contention, an area where we've seen people posting what they think for next season, basically based on what they think of certain youth players, what they think of players that we might signing, and obviously the players that we've already got at the club. So I want to throw up on the screen for you now what I chose a month ago. So you can see on the screen, this is the lineup I came with, including players up in their backup positions. And whilst we're going to go through the formation, which I've kept nearly identical to last time, there aren't going to be the backup options on there, but I'm just going to talk you through them effectively. So let's talk about the goalkeeper first of all, and of course we start off with the very obvious choice of Bernd Leno. Bernd Leno has obviously been a player which has been fantastic at Arsenal last season, was a signing from Bayer Leverkusen and did really well in his maiden year. And I expect absolutely no change. The only change in the goalkeeping department will be whoever backs up Leno in that position, which looks most likely to be Emilio Martinez, or Damian Martinez, I think his name used to be, and he changed it to Emi Martinez. But we move forward with that into the third choice, which is most likely going to remain to be Matt Macey. Now, Matt Macey spent time on loan at Plymouth last season. I actually watched a couple of his games from being at Charlton, with obviously the other half is a big Charlton fan, but when we watched Charlton play against Plymouth, Matt Macey actually did really well. He saved the penalty in that game that I went to see. I remember tweeting it out to all the followers, which you can follow us at the Gooner Talk TV if you'd like. But yeah, I think it's a strong, solid core of people. We don't need necessarily someone like Ospina in there anymore. He's probably too good to be a second choice, and he's gone to Napoli, obviously. Probably still to be a second choice behind Mere, but he's moved, and that's that. And I think Leno is a very, very strong and solid goalkeeper to keep into this Arsenal side. Moving to right back then, again, we've then got Hector Bellerin, this is all based on, of course, everyone being fully fit. Hector Bellerin will most likely not start the season, but he is going to be our first choice right back were he fit. Now, there are a couple of options in terms of backup. The first one is the man that will most likely start there, which is Ainsley Maitland-Niles, which obviously he played a lot of game time there last season whilst Bellerin was out. And then there's two more options. The first one's the one already at the club, which is Carl Jenkinson. Unbelievable to think Carl Jenkinson is still at the club after he's been here for so long. Seemingly well out of his depth. Played in the other day against Colorado Rapids, kept a clean sheet. But people very much are of the opinion that it is time to move on from Carl Jenkinson. Now, the other player is someone that we've been linked to, which is Dani Alves. Now, Dani Alves is obviously a free agent after leaving PSG this summer, and he's someone that I think that Arsenal could definitely take advantage of. His wages would only be for a year, and you're looking around the £200,000 mark, which is, yes, a lot, but he's a free signing. He wouldn't be like a Lichtsteiner type signing because he's so much better than what Lichtsteiner was for us last season. So Dani Alves, I think, could be a really astute signing that could come in and provide the backup that we need, or the replacement that we need when Bellerin isn't quite yet match fit. Moving into the centre-back role, something which is very key and important for Arsenal this season, but obviously an area which has been of high frustration for a lot of Arsenal fans during this transfer window. The first one I start with is Rob Holding. swiftly followed up by Socrates, which basically comes down to the fact, well, I don't think, in my honest opinion, that we are going to make a signing which would take one of the starting roles. I just can't see it happening from the links that have been going to the likes of Izzo and Dan Axel Zagadou completely drying up. In fact, Diallo, the under-21 captain who plays for Dortmund, has moved to PSG, which makes it even more unlikely that they would sell Zagadou as an option. Izzo's links, as I say, have gone very, very quiet. I can't see too many other players being linked to Arsenal. Leicester are being linked with Dunk, if that's not already done already, to replace the outgoing Harry Maguire. So I'm really not sure who would replace who we want to sign. And then moving forwards, you've got to think about William Saliba. That deal looks like it's getting a little bit closer now. There was a bit of a scare with Spurs coming in, but seemingly he does favour a move to the Gunners, which is great. But he's not going to be here next season. I'm not too fussed about that because I think we're signing a fantastic player that will come in next year. But I still just can't see us bringing someone in. So in terms of backup, we've got the likes of Mavropanos. We've got the likes of Chambers, who can play in that role as well, who played against Colorado Rapids. And then we've got the issues with Koscielny. And Mustafi is still here and doesn't look like he's going to be going anywhere. So he will still be part of this Arsenal side into next season. And then we move into the left-back role. The left-back role, again, an area of contention this summer because we're being protracted with a long-term link to Kieran Tierney. I do think the deal will get done eventually, and that is why I'm putting him in my team. And he was the same left-back that I put in my team a month ago. But he's still not signed from that point. But things are seemingly getting closer to the signing. The backups, of course, are Nacho Monreal and Kolasinac. Monreal can also deputise in more of a centre-back role if we chose to go with a back three in certain fixtures, but I just don't see that happening in this era. In terms of midfield then, the midfield three occupied by the three people, two which remain the same and one which now changes. Now I'm playing in more of a deep line midfielder behind the two pivot midfielders. The first off is the centre defensive mid, which I think will still obviously be our signing of the summer last year, Lucas Torreira. Now Lucas Torreira, a bit of a scare with links to Milan earlier on in the window, but they were quickly quashed and we've moved on from that, and Torreira is now recovering from his time with Uruguay at the Copa America and will be integrated back into the team as soon as possible after he's had a well-earned and well-rested break. Backed up by possible Callum Chambers again, but the most likely backup at the moment, because I still can't see any links to this player leaving that are too credible. There were links to AC Milan, again, ironically, with the same position as Torreira, but Christian Bielik is someone that I think can still play a part next season, and I would definitely put him in to that role. The other player is obviously El Neni, but I just can't see him remaining at the club. I think that he will be one that is left to sort of leave into next season. I can't actually remember from memory if he's on the tour. I don't actually think he is. So there is also that. I think he was playing at the African Cup of Nations as well, though, so that obviously would have impacted his summer. But I think the club will look to move El Neni on, whether it's a permanent or a loan with obligation to buy or an option to buy. I think the club will look to cash in on Mohamed El Neni, and Emery has really shown that he doesn't really have a place for him in his team. Moving to the left centre mid slot, which is going to be placed by who I have a strong feeling will take over captaincy if Laurent Koscielny leaves, and that is Granit Xhaka. Granit Xhaka obviously definitely is a bit of a controversial figure, divides many opinions, but I think with the possible signing that we're going to make in the next centre mid role, I think that it will allow Xhaka to focus more on what he needs to do and play less of his risky passes, which are the biggest criticism that he has, losing the ball in the midfield, as well as the fact that he's quite slow. But I think that Torreira being behind him does help. I think playing him behind him and not next to him actually is a lot better for the Swiss midfielder, and I think we might see a good season from Granit Xhaka. Fingers crossed that we do. And so that moves on to the next centre midfielder, which I believe will be Dani Ceballos. We're being linked with the Real Madrid centre midfielder. His really impressive performances at the under-20 and under-21 European Championships, in which Spain won, caught the eye of Zinedine Zidane, and now he doesn't want him to leave, but is willing to see him go on loan because he realises he's probably not going to be getting into that Real Madrid midfield this year, and to get experience at a top club like Arsenal before coming back and possibly taking over the role of like Modric or Toni Kroos could be done by Dani Ceballos, and I think that it'd be a fantastic deal for Arsenal. We can worry about getting in a proper replacement for Ramsey next summer with hopefully more money if we qualify for the Champions League. So I think this is a smart move and one which definitely benefits Arsenal. If we then talk about the front three, this is the difficult part because we've got some players that I could have talked about as backup to Ceballos, but they link in also to playing in front three positions. So let's talk about who I think will start on the right right wing, I'm going with Aubameyang. I think Aubameyang could be shifted out wide again, and we will prefer to stick to a single striker. And that's because we were so easily worked out last season with disconnecting the likes of Lacazette, who is my choice for striker. Those two were really disconnected from the midfield, from the chances being made by the fullbacks, because they were so easily isolated playing as sole strikers. So I just think that Alba will be pushed out to a more wide position. Now, we've got plenty of players that can back up in that role. Martinelli was deputising as a right wing against Colorado Rapids, when actually he's played more of his time for Ituano at left wing. But it's interesting to see that he's been placed on that right-hand side. You've also got the likes of Reiss Nelson. You've got the likes of Henrik Mkhitaryan, who are two obviously very capable players. Nelson is one in the eyes of many fans to be coming back and taking the role that most people actually want to see him starting. I think that we need to ease him in a bit more slowly and a bit more conservatively, to not burn him out, not put too much pressure on the guy, because I think, yes, he's a great talent, but you don't want to ruin that by rushing him into the side. Striker, I've already said, is filled by Lacazette. In terms of backup to that, Alba can obviously play that role as well. In rotation, we might see quite a lot going on throughout the season. And Nketiah is the obvious youth product, but he's actually linked with a move away. There's loan rumours about him going to different parts of the country. There's ones to Charlton. There's ones with other teams as well. So it's going to be intriguing to see whether he stays. I think he needs a loan to basically show whether he deserves to be an Arsenal player or not. If he does get a loan, it's a huge season and he has to take it. But I think Lacazette should be and could be the starting striker for us next season, again with Alba being pushed to more of a wide role. And that is then leading us to the left wing slot, and a position which has been of high contention and high drama in terms of transfers. Wilfried Zaha, a bid was put in for the Ivorian, but I just think that we are going to get the Brazilian Everton, who will take that slot into the left wing position. A really fantastic signing if we make it. The rumours are that it's pretty much done. The deal is agreed. A medical is booked in, and he is going to be signing for Arsenal. And getting a player who's very exciting from Brazil, was obviously man of the match in the Copa America final and won the Golden Boot of the tournament as well. I've done a tactical breakdown on him if you want to go and check him out, as well as the likes of Ceballos as well. So go check out those tactical breakdowns. But I just think if you look at the team in full there on your screen, we've got plenty of players now compared to what we saw previously with what I thought a month or so ago. I think that the difference is in upgrading from Dennis Praet in midfield to Dani Ceballos, and upgrading from Hakim Ziyech on the right-hand side, which would have meant Iwobi playing on the left, to playing Everton with Alba pushed out right, I think is a much stronger front three. And that brings us to players like Alex Iwobi, like Mesut Ozil, who can provide quality in other areas of the pitch when we need to rotate. I can't see either of those two starting if we make those signings. But I would like to see Iwobi getting a few more minutes this season in more of a central role, and we could see that if we play at home in a more of an attacking lineup, which sees Iwobi playing sort of a number 10. But I think there's plenty of options across that front line, plenty of options across the midfield as well, if we can now get in those players that we're linked to. The defence is still obviously the biggest concern. I think we do need to make a centre-back signing, but my personal opinion right now is that I don't think that we will. But that's pretty much where I have my lineup at. Tell me what you think about the lineup. Do you agree with it? Does it make you more confident than the one that you saw a month ago from myself? Or do you think there's still a lot more work to do and it's not actually enough to get us into that top four? Consider the fact that Manchester United and Chelsea and Spurs are going to have issues next season in terms of financial restrictness and transfer bans and just being plain silly sometimes, those three. So there will be opportunities to get back in there. And do you think Arsenal, with that lineup that I've given you, can take advantage of that? I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please give it a like. Please subscribe if you're new with those notifications turned on. We'll see you again tomorrow for the next video. Make sure you tune in for Arsenal's game against Bayern Munich, which is coming up very early in the hours for the UK. But obviously, people around the world, you'll be able to check that out, I'm sure, much more reasonable time. So please go check out. We'll hopefully do a breakdown on that game if I get the statistics in time. I pray that I do. But enjoy the rest of your week if I don't see you until then. But as always, up the Arsenal.